Just a little bit of history. Our first Cybertracker was produced in '97. The first objective being to create an icon user interface for non-literate expert indigenous trackers to gather very complex data, for which we got the Rolex Award in '98. So over the last 25 years, Cybertracker, the old Cybertracker Classic, has grown in complexity. We've partnered with other technologies for back-end integration, etc. And one of the key things that we've learned over the last 10, 20 years is that our biggest challenges in conservation, particularly in developing countries, is that firstly, there are not enough professional ecologists and scientists to cover the key biodiversity areas for which there's critical data that needs to be monitored on a continuous basis. The second important thing is that technical skills are scarce in conservation. So over time, many of these solutions that involve mobile data collection have become increasingly sophisticated and complicated to the point where some of them are now so complicated that many conservation workers in the field simply can't use them. I mean, so when I talk about non-technical people, I include PhD researchers who specialize in lions, and they're really passionate about lions, but they really don't want to fiddle with technology. The third important point is that many conservation projects, they simply cannot afford expensive solutions. And here I include solutions where the software is free, but it requires technical support. And even if sometimes the technical support can be sponsored, it is scarce, and particularly GIS skills are very expensive. You're competing with the private sector. So many conservation projects, they simply cannot afford to implement and maintain sophisticated software solutions. And currently, none of the solutions out there are solving these critical problems, which effectively mean that only a tiny percentage of conservation projects can afford the tech solutions that are out there. The key opportunity here is that if we can solve those challenges, it opens up enormous potential to engage with indigenous communities and also citizen science or community science, where people can gather an enormous amount of biodiversity data that are otherwise simply not available. So as I said, our first breakthrough was with the interface design, and as you can see, they're very simple, and interesting enough, black and white is still the most efficient, especially in dapple shade. You know, often people, they like matte colors and stylistic designs and so on, and they just can't see them in the outdoors. For smaller species, you need to get into color, but if you touch the icon, it pops up a little window which tells you what the species is if you can't quite make them up. So the Cybertracker is primarily, the data capture is on mobile phones, both Android and iPhone. It's very easy to use by non-literate expert trackers. So even though they can't read or write, they've got the expertise to gather very complex data and very subtle observations of signs in nature which conventional scientists often completely miss. And the third most important thing is that with the new Cybertracker Online, which has been out there now for 6 months, is that anybody can customize their own application. In other words, it requires no technical skills. In fact, my focus for the next few months is to get it down to a point that a 10-year-old school child will be able to create their own app for a school project. And if we can get that right, and this is why it's really important to really just focus on the UX design, refine, because that's what's going to make it possible to scale Cybertracker to cover huge areas of biodiversity that we currently simply don't have any data. The other thing is also that viewing your data and querying your data for Cybertracker Online requires no GIS skills or technical skills. So as you can notice, there's these tick boxes and it says hoof and it gives you all the antelope species. Now that information is based on, you see there's a screen. So all you do to customize an application, you've got 8 screen templates. You select a template, you fill in the category, hoof species, you fill in the species, Gemsbok, Kudu, Steenbok, etc. Now Cybertracker knows the category of the animal and the species, and then it automatically generates these query tick boxes for you. So to view your data, you simply tick off the species that you want to see, and it appears in colors. Further refinements what we now need to do is to actually add the little icons next to it so that non-literate communities can read the data, and then additional panels to show more detail of the data, but in a way that is graphic and readable to communities. But the important thing is that non-technical users and even non-literate users should be able to view their own data. They shouldn't gather data that then disappears into a black box and they don't have any positive feedback for the work they do. Now, for the first 6 months, this has been the growth. Like, we haven't done any advertising or anything. So in the first 6 months, we've had about 430 new applications being built in about 70 countries worldwide. Even surprising places like Colombia seems to have a cluster of a lot of activity. We've had projects in Mongolia, far out places where people, they just go online, they create their own app, and of course it's going to take time now to see how many of them are sustainable. So we need to develop more refined metrics to follow the progress. And what I'm doing currently with this is I'm looking, with Google Analytics, I'm looking at which aspects of the customization is where people get stuck. And surprisingly, the one that we lose most users is at the login stage. People just don't like to log in, register, password, to and fro, etc. We literally lose about half the users right there. So we need to simplify like a quick login option. And then for those who have got endangered species, at a later stage, they can still create a password to protect their data. And there's a few, literally a half a dozen features where I can see people are getting stuck. And if we can fix those, I've already, my team is already working on it. The adoption rate could probably be increased by an order of magnitude. Also, the current platform is completely free. It's aimed at non-technical users, so it would just spread virally, which then creates an opportunity for indigenous communities, like our Kalahari project that's been where we're testing and carrying. So I pay them, I send them money. We created a tracker association. I send them money once a month. In addition to the biodiversity app, I've also created a little accounting app where they record how much money did they receive from me, how much money was each tracker paid, how much that they paid for food, a photograph of the cash slip, for petrol, etc. So at the end of the month, when they upload the data, I can not only see the biodiversity data that they have surveyed, but exactly where each dollar has been spent. And then I send them, and that's a community out there in the Kalahari. There's no NGO managing them. They manage it themselves. And this, I think, could be quite major in terms of developing capacity for communities. Then hopefully over time, the data will become increasingly valuable. So our revenue would be to create an API connector. So people who need an API connector, they're the sort of people who have money. So we will have a subscription fee just for those features, and maybe advanced analytical features, report writing, and so on. But the basic platform, creating the app, viewing the data in tables, maps, exporting as a CSV file so you can analyze it in Excel as a shape file, etc. All of that will remain free. And once I've refined, at the moment I'm actually simplifying and taking away features that I feel are confusing. Once we've done that, it will be ring-fenced, it will remain free, and it will remain simple. We're not going to have feature creep again. And then behind the paywall, we can then add advanced features, which we can then develop into the future. But the key thing is simplicity. It needs to be free and non-technical. Thank you.